Welcome again to the Tech Factor podcast by Purple Quarter. Today we have Jyoti in the house. Thank you, Jyoti, for coming here to our office. It's a pleasure having you on board. So, Jyoti, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about your journey. Right, you did your computer science, both bachelor's and master's, and went on to joining a really large company like Yahoo. And then you were with Intuit, Yahoo, of course, for 8+ years, and Intuit again for another 8+ years, and currently with Microsoft. Three different companies,
Yes.
three different ways of operating. Now, could you tell us how did you pick each one of these?
Sure. So first of all, computer science and doing an engineering in computer science was not my first choice.
Okay.
When I was growing up, I was and I still am a passionate person for speed. So I wanted to ride, fighter planes.
Okay.
The ones that go really fast and leave that smoke behind. That's what I wanted to ride. But I got power in my eyes early on, and I got to know that that's not gonna work. So I have to find something else.
Sure.
So I was good at maths, and the natural tendency was to think about engineering. And I did think about engineering, but I wanted to do mechanical engineering because back in those days, engineering to me was about opening up machines, fixing circuits, lighting up bulbs, and all of that.
Okay.
And then I went up for my counseling for engineering admission, and apparently the counselor was a mechanical engineering professor. Him and my dad, they did something behind the scenes and then convinced me to do computer science.
Sure.
And I listened to them. I said, all right, that's fine. I'll try computer science. And whatever I do, I generally try to put my heart and soul into it. I don't go back and debate whether this was right or not. So that's what I did with computer science and picked up my passion for it when I was developing code directly with my hand. And that seemed like a lot of fun. And as soon as my bachelor's finished, I wasn't ready to put an end to it. And I'm like, okay, I want to do more of this. So I went to the US and did my master's. And my passion just grew multi-fold because of an algorithms class I attended by a professor named Dr. Rajshekharan. All the engineers would know it's like a red color algorithms, famous book, Horowitz, Sani, Rajshekharan. So he's the guy who was the professor, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And there is so much that this can do to the society, and there's so many things that we can learn from here. So that's what I started up on, and Yahoo was a very thriving company at that time, along with many others. And I went into a career fair and landed up. Yahoo was one of the dream companies that I was hoping to get admitted to, and the other reason was that I wanted to come back to Bangalore. So the shortlisting was the companies that I wanted to go in, and the companies that are ready to put me in Bangalore because I wanted to come back. So that's how I chose Yahoo, and I stuck around with Yahoo because it was just an amazing culture and an amazing set of people who were there. I would have retired from Yahoo. Like, it was such amazing work that we were doing. We started from search, then back in those days when the personalization was just beginning to happen. Everybody was not seeing the same Yahoo homepage. We were trying to make it different for every user and saying that, you're going to see a different page based on your history, your click history, your interests, and your background information versus Jyoti versus somebody else. So that was cool, and it was amazing. Lots of learning happening, and I grew to an engineering manager role at Yahoo. But then the company was at a very high level from a business perspective, was not doing great. And there were lots of changes on the leadership side. Marissa was brought in, and Marissa took a decision that she wanted to have all the engineering co-located at a single location.
Right.
So I was asked to relocate, and I was working in the US after my master's, and I had come back to India for a very deliberate decision that I want to be here.
Sure.
So when they asked me to relocate, I thought about it for a few days, and then that's not what I can do. I'm gonna stay here, and I resigned from Yahoo at that point on. So coming out of Yahoo and choosing Intuit was not a very well thought decision. It was just circumstantial.
Sure.
And then Intuit also was a company which was it was a very different reason I went there, because I was thinking about doing my own tech startup. And because Yahoo ended up at such an abrupt note, I wasn't sure whether I'm fully ready to do the startup or not. It takes, it better than I do, that it takes a lot of courage to do that. And I wasn't sure I have it. So Intuit was known for a very good work-life balance, and I thought that let's go to Intuit. I'll work there, and it seems like I'll have some time to work on my startup idea.
Sure.
And that's how I chose Intuit. And I said, okay, this company has a brand of good work-life balance. I'm gonna go there and start thinking about my startup.
Right.
Gone were the days. Obviously, me being me, with like super passionate about everything that I touch. I never looked back. I got so engrossed in the company and just loved the mission of what the problems that we were solving, the company was doing. It just felt right to be there and then move ahead in the career. So that was Intuit for 8-9 years, and then I did 3 different roles at Intuit, 2 of platforms and 1 of a consumer product, like a consumer-facing product itself. And then I was thinking about what's next for my career, what next that I want to learn. And that's how I came across Microsoft. And I was not looking out. It was like a casual conversation with a leader, which just landed up in multiple such conversations.
Sure.
And Microsoft making an offer. And I said, all right, that makes sense. Let's do this. So,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. So 3 different companies with 3 different value system, right? Yeah. And even from a technology standpoint, 3 different dimensions to this.
Yeah.
So could you talk about, from a technology aspect, what did you learn from each of these that you're using today?
Yeah. So from Yahoo perspective, let's start back there. I think the biggest learning from Yahoo is how do you keep changing yourself, how depending on how the market is evolving.
Okay.
And just to give an example, that I used to be responsible for a product which is a trend generation product. Like you want to find out what's trending in the market, which is not same as what's being searched for most, because in those days, Facebook was most searched, MySpace was most searched, Facebook wasn't even there, right? So it was the most searched query term. But that's not what's trending. But if something happens to a celebrity, then that celebrity tends to trend, right?
Sure.
So there's a difference between what's famous and what's trending. So that's what the company saw it early on, that there is an appetite for something like trend, but trends are not going to come in from search stream alone. We'll have to pick data from other places as well. So the company did a very timely integration with Twitter feed, and the Twitter feed was like supplied as a fire hose to multiple such companies. We used to pay Twitter as well at that time, and then combining the two, the tweet plus the search stream, both of them put together. It must have been like 15 years ago. We had our first language model. So that was my first interaction with the large language model, because those ones were the ones that we put together to come up with the trends. So I thought that was supremely interesting. Then the second one was this whole notion of doing things right by the company, by the industry as well. So Hadoop being one example of it, right? Like you want to do something that solves for your problem, but then you want to see it outside as well. Hadoop started off like a completely non-profit initiative under an Apache license. So we started it like that, and eventually tried to make money out of it as well with the company that got created as a result of it. But that was my second learning as well, that it's like predates AWS, but very similar science, right?
Sure.
That you see something that you want to solve for yourself, then you make it open-ended, and then you see how the market is reacting to it, and then you go ahead and start thinking about monetization. So I think those were the 2 things from Yahoo perspective. Having said that, what I learned at Intuit was very different. It is about falling in love with a customer problem rather than a solution that some of us, like engineers, we have tendencies that, this solution I like, and we try to force fit that into a problem.
Correct.
But what Intuit taught me, Rupa, was that it's not about the solution. You have to maniacally focus on the customer problem, fall in love with customer problem, not with your solution. So this is a very famous line a lot of people would attach to it. And that's what the first thing that I learned was that it's not about technology. It's about finding the right problem first that makes sense for the customers, not just you think that it's a problem that customers have. Go talk to customers, as many customers as you can, and just go in front of them and just watch them. Don't ask a single question. Just watch them, what they are doing, and then just absorb, and then come back and decide, okay, what were the problems that you saw, and then go about it. So that was very good. The second thing, which is more about from a technology perspective, is about investing in future, investing in thinking about what might be needed in the future. And the example that I have in my mind is about this whole AI wave.
Right.
It's been like 6 years ago that the CEO came to the company forum and said, we are revising all our priorities and the big bets that the company is going to focus on. And he laid down 5 big bets for the company that are still relevant even today. The whole company is still working on those 5 big bets. The first big bet was about revolutionizing speed to benefit, which means that you got to have a clean data set because anything on AI works on this model of garbage in, garbage out. You give a garbage to model, it's going to give you garbage out. So you first have to make sure that your foundation is clean. You have the data that is consumable, because in very large enterprises, it's very easy to get corrupt data. It's very easy to get multiple copies of the data. And then what happens is the source of truth just gets missed out. Like, I don't even know what's the right address for the customer or what's the right phone number, because I have 5 different copies because of the 5 different products that I'm offering, right? And they have their own flows where we are asking for customer data. So investing in foundation at the right time, that's supremely important, because when the market is changing, just like the whole Gen AI wave has come in, there is no time to focus on that. The only thing that we can do at that time is to leverage the platform that you have built and, just build products on top of that.
Sure.
So it's very important for us as leaders to think through that what are these bets that we have to invest in right now, which won't give benefit today, but they're going to be supremely beneficial a few years, a few months down the line. So those are the learnings that I have. And I think Microsoft has been very, very new. I've been there for a few months right now. And one thing that is standing out for me is just the sheer amount of innovation in the company that happens. It's just mind-boggling, the kind of things that people are thinking through, the efficiency gains that we are seeing with respect to the whole AI investment that has happened in the company, and the different use cases that the company is able to think through from there. So that's one, which is just the focus on innovation is so nice to see. And just the second thing is also about taking risks as well, that some of the ideas will work, some of them will not work, but we are not going to stop in making investments worrying that some ideas will not work tomorrow. So I think longish answer, but just my learnings from some of these companies.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just taking a cue from there, right? And looking at Microsoft as a new company that you're with, it's been 5 months is what you said.
Right.
So I'm sure that working with larger companies, there are great areas that, you'll focus on. But from a tech aspect, like for example, you said, you have to be obsessed about the customer's problem.
Right.
What were the challenges you faced as an engineer while you were doing that, apart from the mindset, right? What did you think you learned during that entire curve?
Not specifically at Microsoft, you mean?
Not specifically at Microsoft, but I'm saying that when you were to look at such a thing, right? Or even with Microsoft, when innovation is fairly the spotlight for you. As an engineer, what are the few things that, make you involve and get to become that role? We all go through a share of failures before we become successful.
Right.
What is it for, I want to know from the mind of a technologist, what is it that you do to evolve?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is the biggest thing that technologists or any product producer, so to say, feels most motivated about is when they see customers leveraging and using what you have built. Right. I work on Microsoft Teams, which is the collaboration product that we have, right? And this was, I don't know if you have heard, this was an innovation project. It wasn't built to be a collaboration product. It was an innovation product that came out of multiple hack days that that the company works on.
Right.
And then it was a product which we were working on, thinking that it may be useful, and then COVID hit us, right?
Yeah.
And then with COVID happening, a lot of things changed overnight. We were not ready for the scale that was going to hit us, and we were not ready for the way we could be potentially used. Even now, our engineers, my team comes and tells me that, you know what, my maid's child came to my house with along with the maid, and I was asking him, how was he studying, and he said, and he showed me his phone, and Teams was on it, and then his
Wow.
college or the school, set up on that, and then he visited. The eyes were lighting up that, oh, I could continue the education, I could continue, learning more. It's just because I had this tool with me.
Sure.
I don't think there's anything more satisfying than that, when you see that you're making an impact at the grassroots level. And then at the same time, you have these classic engineering problems about knowing that you are growing at such a fast pace. The only way you can make it happen is just by throwing more hardware at it, right? And there's no other way right now, because you just don't have time to do the rewrite, which is exactly what has happened right now with Teams. Just like last week, we launched a new version, T2.1, like T stands for Teams, which is all about that, which is just about rewriting the whole Teams code base that we had, which can now work on the foundations that we wanted to build our real product on, which can scale, which works fast, which has the features, experience, and all the stuff that you generally want to have. So those are the two things that technologists want to keep thinking about. Like, I always keep thinking about it, this whole 25 milliseconds that we are adding into a painting experience on the pane. What is it then going to lead to? How many people will just move away because my call took 25 milliseconds additional,
Wow.
right? So those are the real problems that the engineers feel very good about. And then when they hear that at the grassroots level it's making an impact, I think it's a win-win on both sides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you did LLM quite long time back. So
Right.
when you actually came into Microsoft Teams and also looked at the OpenAI thing that happened,
Right.
what are you looking at? How is it going to change with, can I call it Gen AI? What can I call it? Can I call it Gen AI? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'm really careful when I talk about Gen AI. So what are you seeing will evolve? Can you talk about that a bit? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I think what could happen is still unknown. We just have few ideas what might happen. One thing I'm sure of is that the technology evolution that happened in the past 15 years with this technology, the amount of change, the same amount of change could potentially happen, but it might happen in, say, 5 years. So what happened in 15 years could happen in 5 years. That's one example. And then the amount of the use cases that could potentially come in, they're going to be supremely different. Like, I'll just give you an example which is very close to home for what's happening on just the Gen AI side or the Copilot side of Teams. Is that when you're busy, you're always running late for meetings, okay? And you're scrambling, people are waiting because,
Sure.
somebody has not joined. Like, just sheer amount of time that we spend in waiting for people to show up on a meeting, right?
Correct.
And this is my favorite feature of Copilot these days, that you can go 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late, and Copilot tells you while you were away, this is the catch up of that meeting so far.
Wow.
And this is what has happened. Somebody gave you an action item. This is a decision you need to make, and now you're in the meeting, right? So I just love it, because then I have less amount of stress that I'm running late. I don't have to cut conversations because I know I can very quickly catch up. Just an example of how things could potentially change, the amount of efficiency, Rupa, that can come in from a developer perspective. That's something that I'm very passionate about, because I know that especially in large enterprises, the business logic for something that needs to be developed is very small from a amount of code perspective. But making it ready for production is really huge,
Right.
because you just have to think through every single possible failure scenario. All resiliency needs to be built in, the performance needs to be thought through, the dependencies need to be thought through. If one of the X dependencies failed, what will happen to my feature, right? So just the business logic is small, but then the amount of readiness that we have to work on is huge, right? And then there are cycles of code reviews that happens after that, and there are alerts that we have to set up. It's a lot that we have to work on when we make a feature ready for production. And I feel that with the technology that we have at our hand, that can be supremely useful in making a lot of these processes supremely efficient, like code reviews. They can be made completely automated, that I'm
Right.
not waiting on you to give me your
Sure.
feedback, and I can just ask Copilot and say, just review this code for me, and then you got 15 things, and then when I give it to you, you'll just give me one more rather than 16, 17, right? So it just
Sure.
makes things very, very efficient from a developer angle perspective, saves the context switching that we have to do for engineers. So that's something which is something that I'm very passionate about, that this technology could potentially do to a development life cycle. From
Understood.
an efficiency perspective, from a readiness perspective. That's something that I feel will change
Sure,
a lot
sure.
as well.
So going back to, let's say that, if you had to give your opinion about AI with Intuit's financial products,
Right.
right? And finance is something that the country is thriving on since
Exactly.
we had the UPI that came into
Right.
motion.
Right.
So what would you think would actually be a good use case for AI to actually look up on,
Yeah.
right? Or for companies like Intuit to look at
Yeah.
from a financial product
And
standpoint?
yeah, I think this is something that Intuit is already working on, and I know that because I saw some of the foundational work happening. I'll just give you an example of one of the platforms that I was responsible for. The mission for our platform was never enter data, which means that be it an accounting product or a taxation product. I don't know about you, I spend a lot of hours trying to do taxes. And this is even after I take help from a chartered accountant. Even then, forget about me doing it myself. That's
Sure.
the amount of time that I spent in just doing taxes. Imagine the world, you log into a system, everything is set up, everything is there, and then all you got to do is there are two highlights that the product has tell you that we're not sure. Maybe we just want to take we want you to take a look at this. Just do that. 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. You want to take an advice, and there is an AI based expert system. Just get an advice, tuck, tuck,
Right.
tuck, 5 clicks, taxes are done,
Sure.
right? So that's just one example from a financial taxes perspective. Because
Clear
I
tax,
know-
are you listening? Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, so that's something like that.
Right.
And then similar thing for accounting products as well, because and it's supremely important. I know it's very close to your heart about the success of small businesses, right? Like small to mid-term businesses. And it's a stat that more than 50% of the small businesses shut down within the first 3 years of their beginning, right? And they shut down for a variety of reasons. But imagine if one of or few of the reasons were just about, having a cash flow into the startup or the company that you have, just maintaining that cash flow. If somebody could give that insight, or if somebody can tell you one of the other biggest problems is growing customer base, right? Like if those problems can be solved with the help of AI, then imagine the rate of success of the companies that come in and the impact that it would have on the society, right?
True.
So those are the kind of possibilities that I think about that we have, and a lot of companies are working on it. I know Intuit is also working on it because the whole never enter data was one of the initiatives that we had back in those days as well.
Sure, sure. So, what happened to that light bulb that was in you? Wanted to be this startup entrepreneur?
Yeah, I don't think I ever found that courage. Or you can say the home loans never gave the flexibility.
All right, I get it. I'm sorry for asking that. I was just deeply curious because we were talking about Intuit, and you naturally
Yeah.
said you joined them because you had this in your head. Now, drifting a bit and talking a little bit about your time in Yahoo, and Marissa was one of those leaders who came in, and there was a lot of, she was quite an influencer. The whole media was talking about her and how she went about the whole thing. So, because you were on the inside, could you tell us your personal experience when it came to Marissa's, can I say Marissa's reign?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
That's
at
fine.
Yahoo. Because I'm deeply curious because I've read so many articles, but I really want to get your say on it.
Sure. I think one of my fondest memories of Marissa has been the culture change that she drove in the company.
Okay.
How much it was successful is, let's not talk about that.
Sure.
But the attempt was great. I still live by what she was doing at that time. It was very simple. When she came in, the company was in a state that every single memo that would be sent out to employees, before it reaches employees, it's out in the press.
Wow.
It's already there.
Sure.
And it was such a sad state that, it just feels like that as leaders, we can't even share anything with our people, because the moment we say something, before you know it, it has gone to your employees. It's already sitting out in the press and people are already judging, and then, everything that happens as a result of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what do you do about it? The first thing she did was that she made it supremely clear that she means business, and she said that she will not stop from sharing. But she expects that when she shares, people will take it in the right spirit and won't do the things that they are not supposed to do. Very simple to say, but she started with that.
Wow.
Then what she did after that, I just cannot imagine myself, to be honest, ever doing it, especially given the state I was inheriting the company in. She started something called as an FYI, okay, for your information. Every Friday, 4 p.m., she will set up a stage. She will go right in front of the entire company. The whole company would be invited every single Friday, 4 p.m., and she would share what has happened in the company in the last 1 week. The decisions that she made, the releases that have gone out, or the product launches that happened in the past month or so, how are they doing, which ones worked, which ones did not work, and the decisions that she thought that she took but were not right? Like, it takes a lot of courage to do that, to stand in front of the entire company every single week and just be transparent, right? And imagine the state that we were in. Every single memo was going out and it changed.
Sure.
Like, the whole memo business going out in the press, that stopped.
Sure.
Because she was just so upfront. Every Friday she would come in and talk about it. And I thought that fostered that culture of trust in the company after that. Because when leaders speak that language, that I'm going to share everything on, obviously the numbers, financial numbers aside, but the prioritization decisions, why am I doing what I'm doing, and this is what I think, and then open Q&A after that, people can share their mind, give feedback. It just fostered that culture, and I still do it even today. I'm a leader in the company, and I'm still following that. And I tell my team that I'm going to share things with you that people may not expect me to share, but I'm still sharing, but I'm expecting you to deal with it carefully. That's all I say. And then you make your decisions what you think is right or wrong. I won't say this or say not, but just know that I will say something that may not be, publicly consumable. And it just works. And I think I just loved what she tried to do at that time and in that state of the company, which is that bringing in transparency. The other thing that I feel that I learned from her when she was coming in, I don't know the exact verbatim, but it was something like this, that she said that she tries to do things that she thinks she's not fully ready for. You can think of it like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, pushing yourself outside the boundary, some things like that. You asked me, how did I come out of Intuit? That's one reason for that, right? Like, I don't know whether I'll be able to do it. I feel a little uncomfortable, but I want to try.
Sure.
Because every time we do this, some decisions will give you so much learning that the last decade wouldn't have. And I think that's the other thing that she tried to do. She tried to push everybody as well. So those were the two fondest memories. It was 10 years ago, but my two fondest memories of Marissa's reign at Yahoo.
Wow. Yeah. So much that you shared, but what's written out there are also different sides of Marissa, right? So
exactly.
I love the way that you put out the 2 points, which are really wonderful. I'll keep them in mind as well, when I'm running this ship as well. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jyoti.
Sure.
Moving along, we were discussing a while back, about your career, right? You've had a long-standing career. You've been with companies for a long time without taking breaks. You've managed to, you have 2 kids is what we spoke about, right? Most often we see that people, women specifically, we spoke about this, you and I, that, taking breaks naturally happens because of family way or you're probably thinking it's better for me to take care of the kids. What was your approach to life? How did you sustain such a flourishing career, make it to being a partner at Microsoft? How did this come to you?
Sure. I think the first thing is that for me, the job was never a job. It was a career. It's part of my life, and it's a critical part of my life that I cannot imagine myself without it.
Right.
Like that's number one, because I truly feel happiness from what I do, from the value that comes out and the impact that it has on the people, on the customers, on in general as well. So that's number one, that I always felt like that this is something I drive happiness from, and something that you drive happiness from, you wouldn't want to leave it for
Right.
anything.
Absolutely.
Right? And then there are forces that give you the courage and the strength that even after you've had kids and then they are young, and the empiring that comes with having kids and all of that, you're able to make through that. That's number one. Number two is the support. And the support from the companies that you're part of. And I was fortunate to be part of Yahoo, Intuit, when I had both of my kids.
Sure.
And it was just amazing. And I'll tell you, with Yahoo, the maternity break at that time was like 3 months. I was in office 3 months, 1 day. And because the daycare was on the second floor, my office was on fourth floor. And it was a daycare that Yahoo had set up for its own employees.
Sure.
And I loved that. I
Right.
would just get my son to office every day with me, and then I didn't have to pump, extract anything. I would just run down, 2-hour alarm, run down, feed, come back, 2 hours, run down, feed, come back, right? So
Wow.
such an amazing support that I had, because, from the company side, just from an infrastructure perspective as well,
Right.
and that supremely helped as well.
Sure.
And then I think just the third thing that I would say is about that, as mothers, as women, we want to be perfect. There's this perfectionist attitude that I want to, and I'm a culprit of it. I was telling you this, and I don't think I'm out of this mode, and I don't think I will be as well. Is that I feel like I should be perfect mother, I should be a perfect leader in the company, and my house has to be shiny. Anybody comes in, the thing should not be here to here as well. Everything needs to be perfectly set up. But reality is far from it, and we
Sure.
just got to learn to be okay with imperfections. And I'm telling it to you while I'm telling it to myself, that it's okay to drop some things, and it's okay to ask for help as well.
Sure.
Be it company, be it family, or just a support system that we have here. So
Right.
I think those are the three things that truly helped me.
Sure.
Yeah.
You did mention about, where it was not an easy journey as well while you were growing. You grew quite
Right.
frequently.
Right.
And you did mention that people kind of said that, hey, this is because you're a woman leader, so you've got that spark, and that's the reason why you moved up. Do you want to share that piece as well a little
Sure.
bit?
Sure. I think it starts very early in my career when I used to interview for positions. Nothing against HR. I love our HR teams. But until I would say that I am an interviewer and I'm interviewing for the position, the body language, the tone of the conversation would change before and after. And it would be the case sometimes people, oh, so you're not HR. I'm like, no, I'm an engineering leader here, and I'm interviewing you for this position, and this is what we are going to talk about. Oh, so you're not HR. Oh, okay. The the tone would change, the body language would change. It would be very different, and it was many years ago. But that was my first realization that this not gonna be very simple thing.
Sure.
And then fast forward every time. Sometimes when I would get promoted, sometimes I would get hired, and people would make these comments, oh, she's here because her boss wanted more diversity in his staff.
Wow.
Or there was a goal to do X percentage of promotions, so she's here because of that. Oh, you have an easy path out because you're a woman. You will for sure get promoted, but I will have to wait longer.
This is new.
because I am a man, right? So people would say such things. To be honest, it used to bother me because I used to feel that anything that I'm starting new, I'm starting at a negative ground, because I have to first come to that common neutral ground with everybody, that I am here because I deserve it, not starting from a negative ground wherein people think that I'm here because of my gender.
Sure.
Right. So I used to feel bad about it, and I used to feel that, I have to do something to prove that I am here because I deserve it. And then I realized that it's just, you just got to have your work speak for itself.
Sure.
And just forget about it. And somebody later taught me as well that if somebody thinks, and if you also believe that you got something because of a gender, just say thank you, feel happy about it, and move on. Because there's nothing you can change about it. And just don't create it further along in your own team. Just make sure that the culture that you create is not negative, and is welcoming for every hire that comes in, and for every opinion that matters as well, because that's what diversity is about, rather than gender. It's just about having diverse perspectives. So I learned it over a period of time, and I learned to ignore as well. When people say it, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Such a deep thought, right? When you have to move from the negative, and then you're proving to the set of people who don't even know what they're saying to come to an equal ground. Wow, that must have been really hard, Jyoti.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry if most of these people have said what they said to you, but
okay.
I think you deserve where you need to be, and every woman leader, wherever they are, they deserve where they need to be.
Yeah.
I hope this gets acknowledged really quickly. Yeah. On that note, what is the piece of suggestion or advice you'd like to give younger generation lot, men or women both, on what they should be looking at if they were carving a career out for themselves? They want to be as successful as you are. So what is it that you'd like to share?
I think one thing is that whatever we do, we got to put our heart and soul into it. Every engineering project that we work on, and since I'm coming from a technology background, every project is not that shiny one that the entire company is putting its money on.
Correct.
Having said that, every project has its opportunity. It may not come in from top immediately, but that's exactly where our passion comes in. And, if it's something which is looking like gold on the way to becoming gold, everybody knows it's gold. But if you can make gold out of nothing, that's where the real value and the real happiness comes in from. So that's one thing, that don't judge just by the looks of thing. Oh, you're putting me into a maintenance project. Oh, this is a lights on project. What am I gonna do? How soon can you take me off?
Right.
Like, we cannot have that attitude, because everything has a great opportunity. We just need to open our heart and mind to it. So that's number one, that whatever we have, just do it with full passion and heart and soul. That's number one. And then the number two is that, I know it's going to sound cliche, the number two is that, and this is something that Intuit has taught me very dearly, is that you're going to go little distance if you go alone and too fast, but you're going to go too far if you're going to go taking other people along. So that collaboration and team player mindset that's there, it's supremely important. I know our younger generation tends to feel alone because they have their own virtual world that they are part of.
Correct.
And then building that team mindset into that could be hard. But I feel that's another one that I want to suggest, that we keep our eyes and ears open towards building that collaboration, building those human relationships, because that's what's going to take us far.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Jyoti. That was really, really wonderful. Thank you for having this chat with Purple Quarter. Are there any last words that you'd like to say to our audience?
No, I think it's all right.
Thank you once again for being on the show, Jyoti.
Thank you. Thank you so much.